Welcome to Smoke Jutsu. We are here tonight. You have Midnight and Teesh. So tonight we're going to be talking about Black love stories from Hollywood. So we're going to let Midnight start. He brought this topic up, so I'm gonna let him go first. So let's get to it.
Wow, on the spot, because I didn't think I was going first, but I'll go first. So for me, like I think that when I think about black love in Hollywood or black love on TV shows or movies, I always think about, because I'm older, Whitley and Dwayne.
Mm-hmm.
So a different world. I always go there. Then the next one that I go to was Maxine and
Kyle.
Kyle
Oh,
from Living Single.
mm-hmm.
So
The
those were more
real,
of the
the real good sitcom, not the fake.
right. So those were more of the love stories that built over over time,
Mm-hmm.
and you could see the connection that they had got deeper than just looks. Some of it was built off of we're so much alike or Cal and Maxine was built off of their ability to banter with one another.
Mm-hmm.
So because they were intellectually on the same playing field, that's where their attraction came from. As with Whitley and Dwayne, it was built off of respect for one another. So at first they didn't have that, so it wasn't something that they were looking at. But as they got to know each other, there was a built respect that they had for one another. So those are the love stories that I think about that I when I'm like, okay, this is what black love looks like. And then you get all like loads and tons of toxicity in the love stories from Hollywood.
Yes, this is true. You're right. I loved Kyle and Maxine. They had their their romance was really funny. But of course, Living Single had was truly a comedic sitcom, and with their the building of their relationship, I love the friction between them. I love the friction, like you said, intellectually they were on the same playing field, but in the same way that they were so much alike, they were very different, and that is what made them. That's what caused them to draw them. That's what caused them to draw together. And
Hmm.
at the time, you could tell that they. You could tell that there was something about one another. They were just looking at each other. They were starting to look at each other a little bit different. And after a while, it just got to a point where it built and it built and it spilled over. And there they were. And it was you after a while you just rooting for them. You were rooting for them. And I loved it. And it was realistic because you have people like that in real life. You can see realistic relationships that develop like that every day. So I love the relationship between them. Um, when it came to a different world, I like I saw how the relationship developed. It was a little bit like a lot of people was like that's a um their relationship for me. I really didn't care for it too much because I felt like he was chasing her really, really hard. And while he did get her, and it, he had a great relationship with I can't remember her name. It's been so long, and it seemed like it was forced. Like it wound up being forced with her with Whitley. And but when they finally did get married and everything, I did it appreciate. Well,
Hold on. The way he walked away with his shoulders slumped.
Because we had a discussion prior to this recording that there was going to be zero during the duration of during the entirety of this recording. But somehow, here we are.
Parents. We are parents.
Yes, we are. And yes, we are. And yet we press on.
And yet we press on. All right. So you were talking about Dwayne and Whitley, and you felt like it was forced.
Initially, it felt forced. And while his initial relationship, their relationship was more natural. It felt like those two could have had a really nice life together. And forgive me because I forget her name. I love their relationship. You know, when Dwayne and Whitney got together, it it didn't feel right to me. A lot of people loved it. It was really like a split on how people felt about the relationship. A lot of people liked it. A lot of people hated it. I was on the side that didn't really care for it. Now, as far as once they got married and they were going through their struggles, that was more a realistic depiction for me. When I got older, I could appreciate that aspect of it because they were going through the everyday struggles of a newly married couple. In her case, it was a little over the top because she was someone who just, I guess, had never gone through a lot of these things. She had to be an actual wife in the sense that she never had to do domesticated duties, and
Mm.
that was interesting to watch. So it was just their relationship dynamic just really didn't sit that well with me. But again, just watching them on the married front was a little bit better because you could see newlyweds transitioning into their married life, and that aspect was a little bit better. I mean, I'm not really describing it as well as I would like to, but that was better. That was better for me. Um, as far as black love stories that I have seen out there, I'm looking more at the toxic side. Because unfortunately, Hollywood likes to depict us a certain way.
Right. What are your 5 most hated
Did you
black
do
love
the
stories?
thing
Huh?
for the fifth floor? Did you do
On the
that?
fifth floor. What are your 5 most hated black love stories?
Oh, Lord have mercy.
You want to do it together? You pick one, I pick one, and
Yeah.
keep going.
How about a thin line between love and hate?
Yes. That was horrible.
That was ridiculous. And first of all, Martin Lawrence but he was gaslighting the hell out of her so bad.
Both of
And
them. What are
yeah,
you talking
well, yeah, definitely both of them. And I was just like, I'm sitting here just trying to remember like just the sheer number. Like it was red flags on both sides, and they were just both choosing to ignore them, both choosing to ignore them because they were both trying to get something out of the other. And at the end of the day, they were both hurt behind trying to get what they realized they could not get from one another. And it showed how people try really hard to make someone fit into a mold that they just do not fit into.
about? Mm-hmm.
And we see that depicted on a daily basis in relationships now. That you really want someone to be something to you that they just cannot be. They cannot fit. And you hope that they'll change. You hope that they become a better version. You hope that something they'll mellow out. And that's not necessarily how that works. People will change because they want to change, not because you want them to. And that was a very, very exaggerated version of that, but it was it's a very, very bad depiction of black love. I didn't I didn't care for the abuse and the violence and everything that came. So yes, it was funny, because it's comedy, but why do we have to be depicted in such a violent way? Why do they have to go through all that shootings and all that? That was ridiculous. And look, she became mentally. She was already kind of mentally unstable, and now she's gone by the end of the movie. So I didn't care for that at all. So
Right. So they made it seem like for her to already be in a vulnerable spot, and she explained this. She's in a vulnerable spot,
hmm
and they still made her the villain. Like that part right there,
that
that was a for me. I was like, okay, I can't because it really did vilify the victim. Like it really victim blamed the fact that, ma'am, he got you. Deal with it. That's how they wanted her to be.
mm,
Otherwise, now she's actually the villain when he's the real villain in this movie. So at the end, him getting what he wanted at the end
that was
is
ridiculous.
like that would have been the equivalent of Training Day if Ethan Hawke had really hadn't been killed and what's your boy Alonzo would have survived. That's the same thing. Like that was if Training Day was a thin line between love and hate. That's how it would have worked out because the villain actually won in the end. And then don't get me so I actually had a like went and had a conversation with my wife about what sexual assault is. So we got like I we agreed on a lot of things, and there was one on there where it was like if you end up giving him sex just to shut him up, that's sexual assault. I was like, hold up,
That is
see, and I was like, maybe it's the man in me that I don't understand. So
because
if hold on, let me explain myself because I don't want it to come off. I don't want myself to come off like I'm over here hovering above women. Give me sex or else give me. That's not what I meant. What I was saying is when I look at that, I'm like, there's no. To me, it already didn't have the feeling of there being any physical intimidation included in that statement. Even though I know physical intimidation can be included in that, which could be considered sexual assault, and I would consider that sexual assault if you have to give him sex because you're physically intimidated, that if you don't, physical harm may come to you, or some harm may come to you or your loved ones. Got that. What I was thinking when I hear just to shut him up, more along the lines of not even him asking for it, but him just making side comments or snide comments like, "Oh, it's really dry in here. Like it's been so long since somebody touched me." Like that, and then you're like, "God, I want him to shut up. So let me give him some so he shut up." So for me, that's where I was, and she was like, "Nah, bruh, all of that, all of that sexual assault." And so that's where men and women may have a little bit of difference. And the reason I bring that up here is you could tell that a man thought crazy women are the villains. Who wrote that? Sex isn't a reason for you to act like that. That lady was lied to. She was deceived into sex, which I do consider sexual assault, which would have made Martin's character the villain.
hmm
That's where I was going with that. Don't at me.
I agree. I agree.
All
So,
right, so you came up with Thin Line. So I'm gonna come up with the next one.
so there you go. No further comment because I concur.
Okay. So I'm gonna come up with the next one. So the next love story that I believe is full of toxicity. Two can play that game.
I like that movie.
Yeah, huh? Full of toxicity.
Very toxic. Very toxic. Very, very toxic. Very toxic.
Now, maybe it's me. Maybe I don't watch enough movies. I haven't seen a movie like that for other cultures where they're hypersexualized and where the women are just as aggressive as the men. Maybe it's out there. Maybe it's out there.
It could be.
I just haven't seen it. And that's my take on it, is that they made it like, okay, these women are just like men. We could do the same thing you did. Which I don't want to say dehumanizes, but it emasculates the men in the show, in the movie, while defeminizing, or I guess that's maybe that word, but it makes the women seem more aggressive, more manly, more I don't want to say unwanted, but less desirable. So it didn't make you feel like, oh yeah, that's a woman I would definitely want to date.
But you got to consider the time frame that movie came out. That was kind of on that whole girl power time frame too.
Girl power is not the same thing to me.
I mean, that's for you.
It is. So again,
From a male standpoint, for you, that is not girl. That's not woman empowerment. For a woman, that was a form of woman empowerment, because I can take this into my own hands, and I have the ability to take on to do what men do, because
right.
because you have to remember that there's a double standard when it comes down to how men pursue women, when it comes down to men sleeping with multiple women versus women sleeping with multiple men.
All right. So
aspect of that. So it's not. So I understand, like, it may not make, for you, it makes women less desirable, but for women, it's like, you know what? Why do I have to sit here and let if a man sleeps with me, that makes me less desirable. When a man sleeps with me, oh, he's all of this, he's all of that. Boys dapping him up or whatever. He gets all this kudos, and then suddenly I'm not as valuable because I let you. We slept together. So it's kind of flipping it on its head, and it for women, it's like, okay, I'm taking my power back. It's a form of taking their power back.
right.
So the movie isn't necessarily it's not necessarily about being toxic for I guess, for the female aspect. It's not. In fact, I don't really find the movie to be that toxic. I find it to be pretty funny, because it's just doing a play on showing how men have a tendency to pursue women, and now women are just flipping on its head and taking that power back.
Yeah.
So it may not necessarily be a toxic movie. It's more a show that's showing how that looks if a woman were to do the same thing.
Right. So I hear you. Okay. I don't want to tell you that I'm disregarding what you said, because you have that feeling about that movie, and I get that. What I am saying is not that that trope doesn't work. It does. But when I look at other cultures and how their movies depict that, so you have um, Legally Blonde. So Legally Blonde was around the same. It's around the same subject, that women can do what men can do.
Mm-hmm.
However, she was still desired. What her thing was, I want to be desired for my mind more than just my appearance.
And there are like that out there. It's just we would have to go and we have to delve to look for them, because there are movies similar to what Two Can Play That Game.
I've seen it, and I'm gonna go. Well, to Two Can Play That Game for other cultures, I haven't seen it, and you may be right. It may be out there. I just haven't seen it, and maybe because it was a movie I was going to watch, or a movie that I seen like on Netflix, and it just didn't look interesting to me.
I would say that.
Okay.
They're definitely out there, and I think for us, our movies are going to be watched a hell of a lot more. They're going to catch a lot more. They're just more flashy. I mean, think about it. Whenever we do things, what happens?
Well, that's because our movies can attract technically big stars
Mm-hmm.
for that. because they can't get work anywhere else,
Um,
even though they're big stars.
and they're very talented. Most
Right.
likely, they're very talented. I mean, seriously, there's Vivica and all of them. There's no reason why. Not saying there's no reason why they shouldn't have played in it because it was just funny. Because some of them just acted in the movie because they wanted to do the movie. It's probably just funny to them to just portray being in those roles.
Oh
Some
yeah.
people,
I don't
some
doubt it.
people aren't Some people aren't acting in a movie just because they need a job. Some people are doing it because they're having fun. Some people are doing it they can do it because they need to work. Some people may be doing it because they like the role. Some people do it because they need a check. Some people doing it for both. Same way turn shit. He got plenty of money.
Samuel L. Nah. Nah. Some movies, some he doesn't get credit for. So he was at the studio and was like, "You want me to say fine."
You know what I'm saying? I mean, but
I got another movie starting next week, so you got to kill me off in the second.
but there are actors that are like that, and then you have actors that are a certain caliber, like Denzel, that will not flat out refuse. You're
Right.
not you're not gonna relegate me to certain
Right.
role. I'm not. You will not put me in certain things. I will not be depicted a certain way. You just won't. So there's also that type of um, actor or actress. So, but again, we're going back to the Black love stories. So back to me.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
It ain't easy to come up with it after you talked about another one.
No, because I'm thinking about. I have several movies in mind, but the movie that I'm thinking about, I can't think of the title, and that's
Well,
why.
kind of describe it to me. I can pull up the title.
Um, Tay Diggs, and it's not how Stella got her root back because it's like the first one that pops in mind for a lot of people. Um, but it's the one where he slept with his best friend's girl.
It's my best friend. No, that's the best man.
So there's some toxicity in that.
The best man. So, and it goes all the way around. Like it touched every black person in the cast.
Yes, but that's also what you're also seeing is real life play out too. You're seeing things that happen in real life. That is a movie that is toxic, but you're seeing life happen. And then as the sequels have played, then you're seeing the stuff get a little frivolous. But the first was it? It's been 3 movies or 2 movies.
I think it's only been 2 movies.
There's a third one that's coming.
Yeah, on its way.
Yes, because there's somebody's getting married. But the first movie, I mean, you literally saw life play out. They were in college, things happen. You fast forward, people get married, and you're finding out things happen in college, and the truth is coming out, and people are responding in kind because those secrets came to light, and it's not what you thought it was going to be, or you find out that people who you thought were a certain way weren't, and people are responding how you would expect someone to naturally respond, and it's it's um it's toxic, but people in real life are toxic, so that's not necessarily a negative play on black people. It's not a stereotype because that's on anybody. That's everybody. That's black, white, whomever. That movie I enjoyed. I'm thinking about the scene where he did something.
Oh, the one where he's holding him over the edge, and dude talking to him, looking over the edge, like, "You really want to do this? You really trying to do this, man? Like, you know me, I say throw his ass over, but this your boy, this your man's $100,000."
It was such a good movie. It was a good movie. And
Yes.
and it played like it was toxic, but it was realistic toxicity. It wasn't like some over the top, Hollywood shit. It was legitimately things that you actually see happen in real life. People did some stuff behind the scenes, and the stuff come out, and everybody next thing you know, is my dude, and they right into the middle of the
Well,
friend family.
So that funny, we're talking about the best man and how realistic that was,
Mhm.
because I've seen that kind of, well, not the I'm marrying her now, but I've seen it where like there was a girl that dated two of my cousins.
Oh my. Mhm.
Now they weren't brothers or anything, but it wasn't like these two cousins were at war with one another, at odds with one another, or like they're cool. Like they're real cool now. Like they work together now. So it was weird me knowing, because I knew her since like middle school.
Mhm.
And my younger cousin always had a crush on her. And my older cousin met her when we were grown-ups. And I'm in the middle like, oh. So you do know that if this is my cousin and that was my cousin, ooh, yeah, yeah. Messy. Messy. So I get it. And I mean, some of it was toxic. So one of the things that was really toxic was I don't remember none of the characters' names, so forgive me.
Don't worry.
But the one with the girlfriend, or was she his wife at that time?
I want to
The
say
one
she.
that left for a stripper. That was his girlfriend, wasn't it?
I think so.
Right. So that was his girlfriend. So um, how bossy they made her. So this is the type of stuff that I get
Yes.
into. So when I'm saying that it's toxic, I don't mean just the storyline, because sometimes they just build up a character that is just, to me, wrong. Because there now, don't get me wrong, there are women that are
Assertive
demanding,
and yes, and demanding.
are women that are demanding, and normally those women do not go for guys that allow them to run over them. So to mix those two together is what threw me off,
Mhm.
because you see it all the time. Like women with strong personalities either need a man that's real quiet but won't take it. Like you can yap at whoever else you want to,
And
but
I.
you're not gonna yap at me like that. And that was the thing. She barked at everybody and him, and I was like, I don't know about that, because that doesn't make any sense for her to still be with him. Because one of the things that women, for men, we can fall in love with looks. We can fall in love with how we feel about how you look. We can fall in love with how you make us feel by how you look, by the effort you put in how you look. For men, that's easy. For women, it comes down to, can they respect you? So they fall in love big time with, if you give them a reason to respect you and not a reason to disrespect you or to have lack of respect for you.
Mhm.
So the fact that she was trying to be with him with a lack of respect for him,
Yeah.
and I mean, that just, it threw me off. And that's why I would agree that the toxicity in this movie was there also, but it was mainly on that character and that whole storyline but around them. Now, the other part that was kind of messy, where he was cheating, she knew he was cheating, and she dealt with it because she loved him. That, I'm not gonna say that that doesn't happen. I'm not gonna say that that's not toxic though. But relationships go through a lot. But relationships go through a lot after you've made a commitment.
That's true.
If your relationship is going through a lot at the beginning,
Yeah.
you gotta rethink. You gotta rethink what's going on. Like sometimes people need to be let go so they can get it together to come back.
Mhm.
And yes, she was toxic for trying to hurt him, but that's women, period. I hate to say it that way, but like if I sleep with a random chick, I cheated on you with a random chick. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna sleep with your cousin, brother, sister, aunt, uncle. Like I'm gonna sleep with somebody you know that's seen you, that you done dapped up. Cause where they like men, it's just a scatter shot. But women, like I can get it whenever I want. It just may not be from who I want. So I may not want this dude, but let me jack up your relationship with them forever. And that's pretty much what she did. She messed up their relationship almost forever. Like those two did not get cool with each other again until she passed away.
Yeah.
So she had drove a wedge between them forever because she was hurt, because he was being toxic, and instead of her protecting herself and moving on, she decided to be toxic with him. Although the second movie kind of tried to redeem her for that by her trying to get them back together, but and I mean college, it's you make bad decisions at 20, 18, 19, 20. I made some horrible decisions at 18, 19, 20.
And we all.
So I get it. So moving on. Do you have anything else you wanted to say about this one?
No, I'm here for it. I think that was good. Good, we covered all the bases for that. I think we covered the majority of them. So
All right. So my next one, something new.
something new.
Yeah, with Sanaya Lathan when she decided she didn't want to date. Well, I'm not gonna say she decided she didn't want to date black men anymore. So she fell for a guy of a different race. So it was a white guy. Have you seen something new? No.
It's okay,
No.
but
I'm
you
gonna
can.
go through. I'm gonna go through it real quick and we can move on.
That's all right. That sounds like please. Cause I'm go
So
watch.
so she was a highly successful black woman.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, she hired a gardener to fix her yard, straighten it up, and make sure it looks nice. So he had his own company and everything. He was the gardener, but he wasn't like cut the hedges gardener. Like he mapped out how her backyard was gonna look, and then he built it to look like that.
Say sorry. Okay. He's an actual full place.
Right, right. So he owned the company that he was working for. So it wasn't like you call some people and the gardener comes out. So, but she had bad luck dating black men. She felt like he treated her okay. She dated him for a while. Then she spazzed on him about not understanding her culture and went back to dating black men and then realized that she really liked him and then went back to try to get him. Chasing him. Chasing him. So the problem I had with that movie was what the prize was. She should have been considered the prize throughout the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
He was considered the prize by making her chase him. So I hate to put it this way, but she felt like she wasn't valued enough by black men, but especially successful black men. So she wasn't valued enough by them. So that's why she then felt like she wanted to date someone else or something new, which is the whole thing. Something new, which was a guy outside of her race. Only problem is, to those black men, she was a prize. To him, wasn't. He was the prize. So that's why she ended up chasing him. That's where I was like, okay, this is toxic because at no point, like if you're an adult, you can express yourself, and that's fine. If you have a disagreement, that's fine. But if you fall off the face of the earth over a disagreement, all the rocks you can keep kicking them till you make it to Mars. Like they don't need to come back.
Mm-mm. Got it.
So that's where I like my problem I had with something new was like the whole movie I was fine with it because you do get that. You do get successful men want their wives to be prizes. I want you to stay home, take care of the kids, hold me down while I make enough money for both of us. But what if I have career aspirations and goals? I'm not looking for you to have career aspirations. I'm not looking for a woman that has career aspirations and goals. And that's fine. That doesn't mean there are not successful black men that do marry women like that.
It's true.
So so that doesn't mean that they're not out there like that. So just because you ran into a couple of them that didn't work doesn't mean all of them don't work and that you're no longer a prize.
It's true.
So I'm gonna keep beating that. Like we'll go over that a whole bunch more times if I keep talking about this movie.
Oh,
But
look.
that's pretty much what it was for me.
And I'm a firm believer in that. Because just because the previous person did something, doesn't mean that the next person will do the same thing. Everybody gets a clean slate.
Right.
Everybody should get a clean slate.
And
Um,
she was retreading people she had dated before too. Like when she left, she went back to her ex.
mm.
Yeah. Yeah. You got another one or
I got two for you.
all right, let's go.
So Boomerang popped in my mind.
All
Boomerang
right.
popped in my mind because Boomerang is Boomerang is Boomerang. And
Yeah.
then my all-time favorite toxic movie, Love and Basketball, because
Woo!
initially because Love and Basketball is supposed to be this all-time great romantic love. This great romantic love story. Oh my gosh, it's the greatest. And then you get older and you start thinking about it. It's like, no, no, the fuck it's not. Leave it out here. No, it's not. It's not. It's not. And I can't remember Omar's his character's name. Dick, the entire movie. Sid, he basically she chased him basically got the entirety of the movie, and he treated her like crap. She supported him like she backed his play crap throughout the entirety of the movie, and he treated her like purity crap. She was just as talented as he was. You know, you both basically make it to the league, and you get hurt. She goes off and gets into the league overseas, and still works her way back to you.
You okay? You
It,
had a moment?
no, I mean yes and no, and I'm not saying that you love who you love, and
Mm-hmm.
he just treated her crappy, and you just weren't all that you thought you were. You just never were. If he had humbled himself so much throughout the movie, it wouldn't have been so bad. But he always had this huge ass chip on his shoulder he never should have had.
Mm-hmm.
He had been a little bit more humble. I would have a higher. I would like him a lot. I would have liked him a lot better. When I was younger, I loved it. I loved the little love story between them. You know any better. You get older and you step back and you watch the movie and it's just like nah. She was like you just like you said in something new. She was the prize. She was the prize. She was the prize. She was intelligent. She was athletic. She was loving. She was supportive. And here he is. They, both incredibly talented, but he did not support her the way that she supported him. And you will find in real life that you will have two people who are technically equally yoked, and sometimes you will find there are men who are intimidated by that. Why are you intimidated by someone who is who is on the same level as you? Why would you be intimidated by someone that you can make moves with together? Because in that case, when the differences arise, you take it as competition versus the ability to push each other up and and keep moving. I don't understand, and
Hmm.
that's what I saw with it in the movie was here you go, you're both incredibly talented, and it dawned on me that he was jealous of her. Like a piece of him was jealous, like early on, jealous of her ability. And maybe that's my interpretation of it. I could be wrong. We definitely would like to hear your side on it, but it settled with me like, dude, this girl was love you and support it and really backed your play, and you were low key jealous of what she had going for her, and there was no reason. Y'all could have did that thing together. So
Wow. All right. So I could not disagree with you more about who was the toxic one. Toxic movie? Yes. Who was the toxic one? I couldn't disagree more. So this is why. Let me let me lay this out for you. Okay. So her character in the movie, let me start by this. I'm gonna throw the blanket out there. Her love was for basketball all the way up until the end of that movie. Her actual love was for basketball. And anybody that spent any time with her actually realized they were always number two behind basketball to her until the end of that movie. So until she was able to humble herself about which do you love more, me or basketball. So until that, she wasn't able to be loved by anybody. So that toxicity starts where she's not able to first accept that who she is. So there was that because her mother had been beating that into her head to not accept or love who she is her entire life. So until she had that conversation with her mother where she could accept who she is and not have a hatred for who she might be, one day might be her mom. So being having hatred towards your mother or father, which he had until he was able to forgive his dad. So neither one of them were in a place to love each other. But for her, it was not wanting to be like her mom. So no matter what relationship she was going to get into, if you treated her like a regular woman, which her mother was a regular woman, her mother wasn't anything. I don't want to say nothing special, but her mother didn't cultivate any outside skill outside of homemaking, which is a hard job, which is a massively difficult job. Holding a household together, massively difficult job. It takes a lot of little skills and little things. Now, her mother may not have been the best emotional coach, but her mother held a house together, which is a hard job. Probably just as hard as playing professional basketball. Okay? So, her hatred for anything that her mother was like would have bled over into any relationship she was in, and people could see that. He could see that. You're not a girly girl. You're not a woman that would be able to respect a man that wants a wife. And she wasn't until she had that conversation with her mother. So throughout the entire movie, every time they were getting towards or getting down with one another or even having an emotional time, basketball came first throughout that entire movie. So everyone thinks that the love in there, because there's and, means basketball was secondary, which it wasn't. The name of that movie should be Love of Basketball. because that's what it was about. And it was a movie that was about mostly her. So that was about her love of basketball and not about those two getting together. It was about her ability to have a love for basketball, but not necessarily have it overwhelm everything else in her life. So
I,
that's why at the end of that movie, playing basketball and losing, because she would put her skills on to the test to love him. That's why he fell in love with her at the end. It wasn't anything additional. It was he then saw that she could open up herself to being loved because she put basketball as a secondary thing, as a way that they can communicate to one another instead of as I would never put basketball in this position to lose me something I want.
it was always like that.
She was all no. Remember in college when he wanted to talk to her because of what his dad did, and she was like, "I got basketball tomorrow. I can't be. I got curfew. I gotta go in. I got basketball practice." So it was about basketball was more important to her than anything else, even him. And that's where a lot of like I do have this feeling because I've heard this before that now that loving basketball was toxic and it was about him being toxic towards her. I do have this feeling like they gloss over that part or that scene, like he was being selfish, wanting her to be there for him when he was going through something emotionally. And it opened his eyes to the fact that, okay, no matter what, I'm always going to come second to basketball with her.
Not necessarily. Because just like she was, that's like he went through something, she was going through stuff too. So, and with that being said, bringing that to light, they were both toxic. They were both going through things. She's wrong in that regard. He was wrong too because he went over the top with it. Because what happens emotionally with men when they get hurt? What do? They take that shit, they pack it down, and what they do? They exaggerate and they push outward, right? What happens with men? I'm not gonna take her side in regards to outside of that. But when men get hurt, what do they do? What do they typically do? What do men typically do?
Me, I don't get hurt. What are you talking about? Ain't no
Oh,
such thing as hurt.
what do men typically do? And I'm not gonna man bash. I'm just saying in general, when when they get hurt, what do they typically do to hide that hurt?
Oh yeah, they move on to the next thing that.
They will do different things to hide that hurt. They will do stuff that's really hurtful to hide that hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, they will do that. They would do things precisely to do the things that are hurtful to others to shadow, like to what's to shadow that hurt, to hide that hurt. When in actuality, you're crying out. That's your way of crying out about being hurt. And I'm not saying it's okay by any stretch. I'm not saying okay. I'm not saying it's justified. That's typical. That may be something that's kind of taught along go a little way back when you're younger, when you teach you to suppress your emotions versus expressing your emotions. So again, when while she was dealing with this, I'll put that we'll put it in that for another discussion another time. But with her dealing with the thing she was dealing with her mother, felt type of way about being, as you said, an ordinary woman, domesticated woman versus her putting her passion in basketball versus doing the things of being instead of being domesticated.
Mm-hmm.
She fought against that. She didn't want to do that. She against that wholeheartedly. I can understand that because I was like that too. Now look, mommy.
Yeah.
So she was fighting her battle with that, and he was fighting his battle with his dad. So they both had these different things they were fighting against while they were going through their individual, I guess while they were going through college and whatnot. But they chose to do it differently. She submerged herself in the basketball to counter that. He submerged himself a different way in regards to how to counter that. But he hit his breaking point, tried to comfort her, but she still wasn't ready to deal with that. So she submerged herself. I'm going to submerge myself. I can't do this. In her mind, I can't do this. So she deflected back. I can't miss curfew. I can't do this because she emotionally was not ready to deal with what he was doing. She knew. Of course she knew. She's been around him her whole life, so she knew what that was all about.
Mm-hmm.
But she was not emotionally ready to deal with that because if she has to help him face that, what does that mean she has to face? She has to
Mm-hmm.
also face her own stuff with her mother. Was she ready to face that? No, she was not. So both of them dealing with their inner demons with their parents. So there you go.
So that may be a better understanding of the toxicity in that movie. Because I get tired of people saying that just he was toxic, so toxic to her, as if neither one of them were ready to be in any kind of relationship at any point in their lives. And we don't even know if they were ready at the end because we didn't see the build up to having a baby and being overseas.
So I think I think the reason that people are overwhelmingly against him in regard or speak on the toxicity with him is because he was so flamboyant in regards to what how he was dealing with his hurt and how he and I guess fighting with the situation with his dad. He was more open with it. She suppressed it and internalized it. She put it in the basketball. She put anger pressures in the basketball. And then when she did speak on it, she did her, had her disagreements with her mom and whatnot. But when anybody brought it up in a sense, everything went right back into basketball. She pushed it all into basketball. She put all that into basketball. For him, he put it out into the atmosphere. It was clearly you could see how he expressed his frustration. It was openly being shown. So hers was external, hers was internal, but it was being focused, and his was out. This being expressed outwardly. If that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
So it's easier to see his versus you seeing hers being driven towards a certain point. His being spread out into the world. I'm not saying it's okay for either one of them. It just you're hurting. Who is she hurting when she's going and she did want to play basketball on the court versus who was he hurting when he's going under all these women doing this and doing out in the world. You see what I'm saying? That's what toxic. I think that is ultimately what toxicity is coming in when people are um, having certain feelings towards him because you can put yourself in the I guess whether it's men or women, you can see it and you can put yourself in the shoes of how that would feel.
Okay, so you're saying that that's the simple
Okay.
simple situation you can see, and hers is just more complex, and so you have to be looking for it to see hers.
Yes.
Okay, I get that.
And
I get.
I agree. I also see what you're saying as well. So I'm not saying that you're wrong. And I can see both sides of it. I'm just looking at it from the. I just delve a little bit more into it. Down into the weeds.
All right. What? I think that's it. I think love and basketball. It's always good to end on love and basketball as being something toxic. Now, um, when I do want to always end on a positive note. So let us find some black love that I can be positive about. So you know where I'm going.
Where you going?
So if you go into the first family of openness and entanglements.
Not entanglement.
So you, if you've seen any of these, you know, first family is the Smith family. Love them, love their kids,
Mm-hmm.
Trey, all of them. Um,
So
so just seeing how what you say?
I forget Independence Day.
So so seeing how they handle the way they speak to one another now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the way that they're able to not be in the best place, but always be working towards getting into a better place.
Are we referring to movies or actual real life?
I'm referring to the actual family.
Well, we can talk about love stories.
To me, that is a love story
No.
because this is the thing. Some people have those perfect love stories. You fell in love and stayed in love for 50 years, and then you both died 2 days apart. All right?
Is that a Notebook?
I don't know, but some people have said they had those type of stories. I don't have that kind of story.
I don't have that love story.
I do not have it. I do. I'm a different person than I was when I was 21. I met my oldest son's mother when I was 14. Like I've known her that long. From middle school, got married, had a child, got divorced. That was my story with her. I changed into a totally different person as I grew up. My wife now, I'm a totally different person when I met her. So it taught me that people are continuously growing, and that's where those rocky years come from, when your person starts to change. Like, are you accepting of them becoming something different? As long as they're growing positive, it's a positive growth. Like they're doing more, they're enjoying themselves more, they're coming up with new hobbies, a positive growth. Can you get down with that? Can you get down with the fact that I may not want to be up under you all the time because I've grown now to where I can be independent and do my own thing and be happy, and then come around you as a happy person instead of using you and sucking energy from you to become happy. I'm showing up happy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason why I love the Smith family. They seem to be able to do their own things and be happy and come back to each other as a happy person instead of trying to use the other person to pump up their happiness, which is just going to suck the other person dry. And then now that person either has to then come to you at a time when you're happy and try to pull some happiness from you. And now you feel like each other's just it's a vampiric succubus leech type relationship. And nobody wants that. So that's why the Smith family is my first family, because I realized that I don't want that kind of relationship where I have to pull happiness from someone else. And they gave me an example of people changing. You can still make it work as you get to know and love them as that changed person.
So you have individual happiness and then you complement one another.
Right.
There you go. I like it.